Are going live.
Whoa.
All right, I think we are live. I am going to press send on a couple of Facebook posts.
I've got to do the same. Let's see. How do I go live here?
You should be able to just share that live link.
Oh.
And I think, yeah, so we have, ooh.
What do we have? 1 million people?
Millions.
Million? I mean.
All right. We got David Glass. And yes, we are live. We are working out and making sure we got everything under control. We're sharing it with our networks right now. Thanks for tuning in to everybody who is on right now. We're excited to have you. We'll go to that view. And I'm going to prop this up. So you all can see. All right, folks. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining. Are you all ready, Nicole?
I think so. You can hear me, right?
Yeah. All right, cool. Well, everybody that is tuning in, thank you guys. So we are coming to you live from the Vermont Wild Kitchen. So this is our second attempt here. My name, hi Liz, I see you. My name is, hi Nancy, hi everybody. So my name's Shane Rogers, and I am the Vermont Farm to Plate Network Communications Manager, and I run a project called Rooted in Vermont. And we are working to really expand what the local food scene means by including and celebrating all ways that people eat local. So that's why we're here with Vermont Fish and Wildlife. Nicole?
Yeah, hi, my name's Nicole Meier. I'm the Hunter Education Coordinator here at Vermont Fish and Wildlife, and I'm really excited to be part of this live stream with Rooted in Vermont. You know, usually, hi Aunt Patty, that's my Aunt Patty. Usually this time of year, we would be doing cooking seminars like this live for people, and you'd actually be able to get your hands on some of the wild meat and some of the wild plants that Shane's going to be cooking. But we are jumping in here and trying Facebook Live for my first time. Shane, this is your second time doing this, so you're a seasoned pro.
Yeah. So, and before we begin, Nicole, I do want to take a moment just to say thank you to all of those frontline workers and essential workers for everything that they're doing. I know this is a crazy time, and we hope that this Vermont Wild Kitchen can serve as a little bit of entertainment, as well as, you know, we're all hunkered down. So again, thank you for tuning in.
Yeah, absolutely.
So to kick it off, Nicole, we're going to talk a little bit about wild turkey hunting before we get into cooking.
Yeah. So I want to give a quick overview of the 2020 turkey hunting season. Turkey hunting season in the springtime starts May 1st in Vermont and goes through May 31st. Shooting hours are a half hour before sunrise until 12 noon in Vermont. So be aware of that. If you are out in the woods, I highly suggest that you wear blaze orange during the month of May, especially in the morning time when there might be hunters in the woods. That's just a really, really good thing to do. I also want to talk quickly about how the coronavirus is impacting turkey hunting this year in Vermont. So really quickly, we have a few considerations for, number one, reporting turkeys. We are advising folks not to go to check stations. Do not go in person to check stations. You'll be in too close proximity to other people. So we ask that you report your turkeys online with our new turkey turkey reporting tool on our website, and we have a link to that. I believe Shane just posted something in the chat that has all of our links. So we've got a link to our. Can I post it? No,
I got one going up right now.
Oh, perfect. Thank you. So that's where you go to report your turkey electronically. What we're looking for is an estimated weight, your best estimation to that turkey's weight. We also really encourage you, if you can, to submit a picture of the whole turkey, including the beard and the tag that you tagged that turkey with. If you can, that's great. If you can't, that's fine too. If you can't get online to report your turkey, you can call your local state police dispatch or local game warden, and you can report your turkey to them. So even if you don't have a computer, you can still report your turkey. I also just want to mention something about social distancing. If you can, please stay 6 feet apart from whoever you are hunting with if you have not been quarantining with them, okay? So if it's someone in your household, totally fine to sit in the same ground blind as them. But if it's someone that you haven't been quarantining, we highly, highly suggest that you stay 6 feet apart. Probably don't share the same blind. And that's kind of our coronavirus little changes that we want to let you know about for the 2020 season. I guess I want to talk too about why I love turkey hunting so much. First of all, I love eating wild game meat and I love eating turkey. So that's a big motivation. But I mean, my success rate isn't that great. I guess I really have no excuse to not be great at turkey hunting. We have so many turkeys in Vermont. I love being out in the springtime. I think that springtime turkey hunting is the weather is usually fantastic, especially toward the end of the season. And I think the thing that I love most about turkey season is that you're actually sitting there and communicating with that animal. You are talking to that animal. And as a kid, I don't know about you, but as a kid, I always dreamed of talking to animals. I always dreamt of talking to my dog, to the squirrel in the backyard. And this during turkey season, I feel like I'm actually doing that. I'm actually talking to the animals. And I think that, to me, that's the coolest part. If I don't shoot a bird, that's totally fine. If I hear a gobble or if I see a bird, I count that as a successful day. And, you know, Shane, I remember when you and I went turkey hunting together last spring. Do you remember I said to you, I think I just heard a gobble? And I hadn't heard a gobble all season, so I like almost wasn't sure. Like, do I remember what a turkey even sounds like at this point? Yeah, and it's a lot of fun to go turkey hunting with someone and to take someone new turkey hunting with you too. I just love it.
Yeah, it was awesome. That was my first time ever going out hunting, actually, and I am one of those adult onset hunters, and Nicole served as my Sherpa for it. So it was a lot of fun to wake up at the crack of dawn. I know we both fell asleep against a tree at one point, but I feel like that comes with the territory. And
I get some of my best naps in the woods during hunting seasons. Maybe that's why I'm not so successful.
Yeah, that could absolutely be it. And I know for me too, hunting had always been one of those things that I thought was a huge thing to partake in. But Nicole really showed me that if you take the right steps and you do your hunter education, it's actually pretty easy to get out there and enjoy the Vermont scenery in ways that you may not have before. So I'd encourage those who are on that are hunters to take new people out, and those who are thinking about it to definitely reach out to folks that you know are doing it. Most people are happy to share that information.
Yeah, and I mean, if you come to hunting as an adult, not only, you know, do we encourage you to find a mentor, but once we're able to hold events again, we do have this great program. It's a Learn to Hunt program where you can actually spend a weekend with a bunch of new hunters and seasoned hunters. And together we spend a weekend learning how to hunt. And then we actually go out and do a turkey hunt together. So I'm really excited for when we'll be able to gather all in person and run that event again.
Yeah, that's going to be really exciting. So with that nice overview, Nicole, is there anything else you wanted to add? I know we were talking about everyone making sure they wear their orange blaze when they're out in the woods at this time of the year too. And that's going to be particularly important, especially if you're out foraging and not necessarily hunting, because you're not going to be keeping an eye out for necessarily the other hunters very camouflaged in the woods. So make sure you have that on your body or your dogs or whoever you're out with, just to be safe.
Yeah, absolutely. Another thing that I'd mention is if you are, now's a great time in general to be talking to turkeys, even if you're not turkey hunting, but I highly discourage you from, if you're not turkey hunting, I would say don't do any turkey calling, because you could accidentally be calling in a person, right? Because we're imitating the animals that we're trying to pursue. So, you know, I would just say that as well. Try not to do, especially not any gobbling, I'd say.
Yeah. All right. So are we good, Nicole? Are we good to dive in onto some cooking?
Let's do it. Cool. Show me some side dishes.
So tonight we're going to be preparing for you, obviously, wild turkey, but we also wanted to show you some other things that are in the woods that you'll be able to also find and eat. So what we have that we're starting off with is your beautiful, lovely oniony ramp. So the ramps come up during the springtime, and you can find them under deciduous trees, and they really like that full sunlight in the spring when the leaves aren't out. And now a way that you can identify them is they have these oval stalked leaves that are about 4 to 12 inches. They tend to grow in clumps, and the real sign that you found ramps is that when you crush it a little bit, it smells just like onion. And then also to help you, the leaf stalks have this orange, not orange, it's red and white type of hue to it. And the underground everything that's underground kind of looks like a little white scallion, which is the bulb. Now, before we get into the cooking, it is important to note that ramps take about 7 years for them to mature and to spread their seeds. So if you do stumble upon ramps, definitely count yourself lucky. But if it's a smaller patch, you should definitely consider maybe passing it over for a couple of years to wait till it grows. You want to be able to always make sure that you're harvesting sustainably, because if you start taking them all, then they're not going to be there for years to come. And another thing is always, 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 when you're eating wild edibles, make sure you know 100% that you're eating what you think you're eating. If you have any sliver of doubt, just err on the side of caution and don't, spend the evening with an upset stomach or worse. So with these ramps, what we're going to do, especially to go with the turkey, is we're just going to do a quick pickle. Now, the first thing to do with the quick pickle is we're going to make our solution. And the solution is really basic, right? It's a 1 part to 1 part vinegar and water. Now, you can use just about any type of vinegar that you want. I have white vinegar, but I also encourage you all to branch out and get some of that Vermont apple cider vinegar, or really anything that you're feeling at that time. So for this one, I'm going to do about 1/2 cup of vinegar, and we are going to do about 1/2 cup of water. Oh, if I can access my water, that is. And you're going to put that into a pot that you have going on the stove. And in that pot, you're going to want to mix together about 1/2 tablespoon to a tablespoon of kosher salt and some sugar as well. Now, once you get that all in there, you're going to bring that to a boil. And you're going to make sure that all of that stuff ends up dissolving. So if you don't want to use white sugar, I'd also recommend trying out maybe some maple sugar from one of our maple sugar makers. And that's always a good addition to this too. So give that a good stir, and we're going to bring that to a boil. And once that's boiled, you're going to take that off, and we'll get to the ramps. So as you saw with the ramps, they have this identifiable oval leaf stock. And you are going to take those and end up cutting off the green part of it for your pickle. Now, whatever you do, I would highly recommend that you do not throw away the top leafy greens because they are just as delicious as the bottom. And they can be made into things like pesto. You could cut them up and put them in eggs. The last time we did this, we put some ramps with some potatoes. So definitely keep on to these, hold on to these before you, and incorporate them into other dishes. So this is a really simple process. You're going to take your stocks, you're going to get yourself a small mason jar or whatever you have that you can put a lid on. Now, as this comes to a boil, you're going to take this off, make sure everything is dissolved in there. And I've always learned that you want to make sure that this is cooled down, but I've also read that you can do this warm too. So it's really whatever your preference is. So just to keep this a little bit cooler, I'm going to take some ice here and throw it in and make sure that gets all melted in to cool it down. And it's a really simple process from here. All you end up doing is you take the solution that you just made and you pour it to cover up the whole entire ramps in your mason jar. And when it comes to this point, this is the fun part because you can add things like garlic, just give it a little crush and throw it in there. Or you can add things like red pepper flakes as well, or really any type of spice or seasoning that you like. So with this, once you're done, it's basically as simple as that. Put the lid on that. I always give it a good shake. And what they say is to make sure that this sits in your fridge for up to 48 hours. But to be perfectly honest, if you put it in for an hour or less, it's still going to taste delicious. Keeping it on in the fridge for longer is just going to impart some more of that vinegar flavor into it and make it a little bit more pickled. All right, so moving on from there, the next wild food that is starting to pop up that we're going to be cooking today are fiddleheads. So I'm sure everybody has heard of fiddleheads. They are one of my absolute favorite springtime wild edibles to forage, and they're actually one of my first ones that I ever ended up foraging. So what you're specifically eating here is an ostrich fern, and it's a baby ostrich fern. And there are some key characteristics here that you want to make sure that you are looking for to be able to identify it. So first and foremost, it has this groove that runs the length of the upper side. So if you could kind of see that in there, that's a good sign. It's also going to have these generally scaly brown scales on the back of it. And that's another sign that you're looking at an ostrich fern. Now, there are some lookalikes out there, so you don't want to be picking what looks like fiddleheads that are fuzzy. Those are going to be a bad, they're not going to be a fun time if you're trying to eat those. And another important thing is when we're out foraging, obviously, always think about sustainability. So these little things, they end up coming in kind of like pods and clusters. And you never want to forage more than 50% of the little unfurled ferns that are sitting on the ground where you're finding them. And where you're going to look for these is you're going to look for these along riverbanks and really anywhere that there's running water. And a good point that you could look out for is during the summer after these end up popping up, look for big ferns. These are where I found these. I found these on the side of the Winooski when I was out fishing because I saw the big ferns out there. So I really love fiddleheads because they're just this like earthy, delicious springtime edible. And what I'm going to do with them for this evening is we are going to pan fry them. So I got my cast iron up and running. Got it nice and hot and drop like just a big chunk of butter in there or whatever oil that you prefer or different type of lard or animal fat. And then you're going to get yourself 2 to 3 bowls. And what these bowls are going to contain, you're going to have one bowl with an egg in there all mixed up. and that's going to be part of your dredge. You're going to have another bowl filled with flour, and in that flour, you can throw your favorite seasonings in there. I put garlic, salt, pepper, garlic, salt, and pepper, and some cayenne pepper. And you're then also, you could have a third bowl either with breadcrumbs or with more flour if you want. So it's pretty straightforward from here. What you're going to do is you're going to drop your fiddleheads right into the flour, kind of get it nice and coated, and then take those floured fiddleheads and plop them right into the egg wash. Cover that in egg wash. And now this is one of the fun parts, especially if you have kids or you're teaching people to cook. They kind of get to get their hands dirty and get it all in there. So take that, and then you're going to throw that back into the flour or your breadcrumbs. And you're going to coat the now eggy fiddleheads back in the breadcrumbs that you are using in season. So it's fairly simple, and it looks like this, and they are absolutely delicious. So after you do that, you're going to come and just drop them right into that pan with all that nice, hot, molten butter. And these things are going to cook for about 6 minutes or so. And you just really want to like eye them up and make sure that they are looking nice and golden brown and crispy. And they'll stay nice and soft in the center as well. So after that, for our last side, as I get these in here and get them all popped up, is I always like to finish off my spring wild game with some farm fresh greens on the side. And just like how all the spring edibles are popping out, you know, all our farmers are working really, really hard right now to make sure that they're feeding their communities, and there is spring greens popping up everywhere. So whether that's a farm stand or whether that's the farmers markets that are going to be opening very soon, and you could definitely stop by there. And while you're at it, if you run into one of your farmers, definitely give them a big thank you. If you're not sure where to find some of these fresh greens, I would definitely suggest checking out NOFA Vermont's website. And I will, after I am done here, I'll put those links for IDing the wild edibles and also the NOFA Vermont database where you can find farm stands, CSAs, any way to buy direct from your farmers right there. Now, finally, like I said, a big thing about foraging for wild edibles, and I really just started this last year in earnest, is again making sure that you're IDing everything in a way that you're 100% confident. So when it comes to the fiddleheads and the ramps, I really, really like this book called Northeast Foraging by Leda Meredith. And when it comes to mushrooms, I've been really relying on the Mushrooms of Northeast North America by George Barron. And another one that I always seem to carry around in my stack is A Beginning Guide to Recognizing Trees of the Northeast. Because as mushrooms start popping up, one of the ways that you're going to be able to identify them pretty easily is through the trees that they're growing under. So with all that being said and these fiddleheads cooking up, I am going to throw it back over to Nicole, who has a nice wild turkey dish being prepared.
Awesome. Thanks, Shane. Liz in the chat asked, are turkeys meaty enough this time of year? That's a really good question, Liz. You know, during the winter time and the late spring, when there's a lot of snow on the ground, the turkeys are really are mostly hanging out underneath evergreen trees and kind of eating what is falling from the evergreen trees. So usually like pine needles and things like that. A lot of times they'll gobble up some other like incidental things that are in the soil. And so they're ramping up for breeding season, right? And they need a lot of calories for breeding season, which is generally they're breeding in like March and April. So, you know, I can't say with a huge degree of certainty. What?
Sorry, Nicole, I dropped you for a second. My bad.
Oh, sorry. Okay, I'm back. Sorry. I don't know what that was. But yeah, turkeys are going to be meaty enough this time of year. Wild turkeys are not nearly as meaty as the farm raised turkeys. Wild turkeys are out there trying to survive every single day, you know, so they're out there burning calories. They don't have a ton of fat on them, but they are really, really good eating. They're eating a lot of acorns that fall to the ground, seeds, and pine needles, and stuff that falls to the ground. There's some really interesting things that turn up in the crops of turkeys. And Bob Etzweiler, who I think is on right now, actually just posted a picture today of what he found in a turkey's crop, which is pretty interesting. So
Nicole, before you get going, sorry, Heather in the comments, Heather in the comments mentioned something that I definitely forgot. You certainly want to thoroughly cook fiddleheads. I remember vividly my friends, when we were living up in the Northeast Kingdom, ate raw fiddleheads once, and they did not have a good evening, to say the least. So do not eat raw fiddleheads, because it will not be a fun time for anybody.
Do you blanch your fiddleheads ahead of time, Shane? Because that's something that I've done. I've blanched them before I even start cooking them.
Yeah, that's a good point. Generally, you're gonna want to take like a bowl of water and put the fiddleheads in and wash them off, because you're going to get those brown scaly flakes off and kind of get some of that soot and dirt that gets curled up into those ferns. So I would do it a couple times until the water runs clear, and then you won't have a gritty meal.
Yeah. Great. Cool. So what I'm going to be making actually looks nothing like the picture that we advertised to you with, so I apologize for that. I'm actually making shredded turkey breast with a homemade maple barbecue sauce. So that's what we'll be making today. I love doing shredded meats because of the versatility for that of them, right? And I just throw the meat in the crock pot, and then 8 hours later, 6 hours, 4 hours, however long you want to slow cook it, it's ready to go, and you've got a really great meal, like multiple meals too. This is something that we make a lot, and we have shredded meat on sandwiches. We use it for tacos. We use it for casseroles, for soup, etc., etc. Matt, great question. Do most people only take the breast meat on wild turkey? People certainly prefer the breast meat on wild turkey, but I would say that sticking to the breast meat, you're losing out, because there's still all that great like leg meat and thigh meat too. And that stuff is great for the crock pot too, because that stuff tends to be a little bit more tough than the breast. And some people view it as a little bit more hard, a little bit more difficult to cook with. But I think that you throw it in the crock pot, or you throw it on the smoker and then in the crock pot, and you've got a really delicious, flavorful meal. I save the bones, and I make bone broth out of the bones too, which is just really delicious. So I highly suggest any of that. So what do you do? So what I've already done, number one, is I've already field dressed this wild turkey. Like I said, we're not going to weigh stations this year. We're reporting our turkeys online and estimating their weight. Go to our Facebook, our vtfishandwildlife.com for all of those details and where to report your turkey. We're estimating the weight. We're buying our licenses and tags online. We're maintaining social distancing. So we've already field dressed our turkey, number one. And Shane, I think there's a link to how to field dress a turkey, if you wouldn't mind posting that in the chat.
Absolutely.
Thanks. And then how to report your turkey online too. There's a video too, that if you wouldn't mind posting that in the chat as well. Sure. So the next step after you report your turkey is cleaning your turkey. So when you're field dressing the turkey, you know, no matter how well you field dress it in the field, you're going to get feathers, dirt, you're going to get stuff on it. So bring it home, make sure you wash it off. You might even find some of your pellets in the meat. Make sure you take those out. Otherwise you're going to have a very crunchy and interesting meal. For what I did was I took the turkey breasts, I cleaned them, washed them off, made sure I got all that stuff off of them, and then I brined them overnight in just a salt water brining solution. I did 4 quarts of water to a quarter or half cup of salt is what I did. So that's what I did. I put them in the brining solution, and then I threw them into, once they were done brining, I threw them into my crock pot. And in the crock pot, I had chicken broth just covering. Shane, your mic is still on. That's great. Facebook Live. So I threw, after I was done brining the the turkey breast, I threw them in the crock pot. I covered them with some chicken broth, but you can really use whatever liquid you'd like. I've heard some people use pineapple juice. Some people leave it in the brining solution, I think. You can use Coca-Cola. You can use Sprite. There's a lot of things that people will marinate and slow cook their turkeys in. I just used chicken broth, a ton of garlic because I love garlic, and I threw in 1 bay leaf. I set my crock pot on low for 8 hours. You could also put it on high for 4 hours, and you would get around the same effect. I don't know if you guys can see my bowl.
Hey, Nicole, we had a question of, is there a difference in taste between spring and fall turkeys?
That's a good question. I don't know. Does anyone in the chat know? I don't know that I've eaten a fall turkey to be able to tell the difference. If someone in the chat knows, I would assume that maybe there would be some subtle changes because of the changes in hormones, number 1, in the turkeys from season to season. Number 2, the changes in their diet from season to season. I would assume that would make some negligible difference. Bob says he's never noticed a difference in the taste. You know, I don't know. It's like some people say that you can taste the difference between different deer. I mean, I think some people absolutely can. But I don't know. I'm not 100% sure. I'll take Bob's word on it that he's never noticed a difference. He's the best one of the best turkey hunters I know. So anyway, so this was in the crock pot for 8 hours. Can everybody kind of see that? I shredded most of the turkey breasts. This is 1 whole breast right here, though. I wanted to show you guys what 1 whole turkey breast looks like. It's a pretty good size. And I'm just going to show you how easy it is to shred. Look at that. That is good stuff right there. You can see there's a little clot there. Check that out. That's probably actually a hole from one of the BBs. Can you guys see that? Maybe not. Bueller. So I just shred up this turkey. It made my house smell really, really good all day today. My mouth was just watering, waiting for this turkey to be ready to go. I just used 2 forks to shred, and it's super tender. Look at that, just like falling apart there. Awesome. Great. So after that's all shredded, I make my I'll make my maple barbecue sauce. Great. So in my maple barbecue sauce, I have a link to it. Shane linked, I believe Shane linked that already, the recipe that I'm loosely working off of, because we're in quarantine. So I don't have everything that the recipe calls for. I have what I shopped for over the past 2 weeks, and I just, forgot to buy some of that stuff. But I think that's the fun part about making your own homemade sauces and all of these really great meals, right? Is that it's like experimenting. You get to use what you've got, right? So in my maple barbecue sauce, basically the components of any barbecue sauce are tomatoes, vinegar, and something sweet. Okay, so it's like an acid, a sweet, and tomato. So what the recipe called for was 1 can of tomato sauce. I didn't have tomato sauce, so I have diced tomatoes, which I'm just putting into my pan here, my pot here. 6 ounces of tomato paste it also called for. I didn't have that, so I'm using ketchup. And it also called for a teaspoon of Dijon mustard, which I didn't have. I just had like regular yellow mustard. So I'm throwing that in here, the mustard and the ketchup. Great. Tomato paste, the difference between tomato paste and tomato sauce is basically that tomato paste is just super concentrated tomato sauce, which I just learned recently. So I thought that was kind of cool. And then I'm going to add 1/3 of a cup of apple cider vinegar, which is right here. The recipe called for 1/4 of a cup of maple syrup. This is, yes, tomatoes are an acid too, Rachel, but we are adding some vinegar to give it a little bit more of a bite, I guess you would say. This is maple syrup from my friends in Waterbury, Nate and Hannah. So I thank them for that beautiful maple syrup. The recipe called for only 1/4 of a cup, but I'm adding 1/2 of a cup because I feel like 1/4 of a cup is nothing. And I might even add more as I'm cooking it and tasting it and deciding how sweet and mapley I want my my barbecue sauce to be. So then I'm going to add in all of the seasonings. These are my little seasonings here. What I have in here is 1 teaspoon of garlic powder, 1 teaspoon of paprika. I highly recommend using smoked paprika if you possibly can. Smoked paprika will change your life. Change your life. 1/2 of a teaspoon of onion powder, 1/2 a teaspoon of salt. I'm using a smoked salt blend from a local bakery called Butterfly Bakery. They make fantastic hot sauces and granolas, but I really loved what I'm using is a smoked onion and garlic salt to give it a little bit of that smokiness too. And then 1/2 a teaspoon of black pepper, and I like spicy, so I've also got some cayenne pepper in here too. So I pour all of my seasonings in there. And then what I'm going to do, you saw I had the diced tomatoes in here. What I'm going to do is I've got my immersion blender, which is one of my favorite kitchen tools. I'm going to just use the immersion blender to make that sauce nice and smooth. You guys hear it? Of course, I'm wearing an apron, but I don't have it over my shirt, which I probably am getting tomato juice all over me.
It sounds delicious, Nicole.
And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to boil this. I'm going to bring it up to a boil on medium-high heat, and then I'm going to continue to stir it until it becomes barbecue sauce consistency. And it should cook down. And like I said, I like to taste and season as I go. So I highly suggest that you guys do that. I'm gonna put it on the stove right now. Rachel, thank you. Smoked paprika will change your life. I'm glad you're on the smoked paprika chain with me there. All right, and so I'm just gonna keep that moving and cook it down into barbecue sauce, and then I will add it to my shredded turkey.
Nicole, what type of buns do you like to use, or is there anything specific?
So I love using the Sweet Hawaiian, King's Sweet Hawaiian rolls. I happen to live near Red Hen Bakery in Middlesex, and I love their like rustic dinner rolls too. I love serving it on that. However, again, we're in quarantine, so someone ate the rolls that I was supposed to be serving this on. So we have Ritz crackers that I'm going to serve it on, probably. We also have just plain old country white bread and some whole wheat bread that you can serve it on too. I mean, this barbecue sauce is just really yummy, and that great flavor and tenderness of the turkey, you really can't go wrong with whatever you're going to serve it on, in my opinion.
And also, King Arthur Flour has so many different types of recipes if you guys are still staying at home and want to mess around with making some bread. And the best part about making bread is that even if you mess it up, it still tastes delicious.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. We've made bread at home, and it's a ton of fun. It's a really great experiment. I love experimenting in the kitchen so much. So I made this barbecue sauce last week to kind of test out how I would do it for tonight. And we used it on pizza that we made. We made like a barbecue pizza, which turned out really good. We actually put the pizza on the grill too, which I loved. And I also made maple barbecue baked beans with it, which I highly suggest. We also added some shredded chicken into the baked beans that we made. And if we had like Vienna sausages or something like that, you could add that to it too. Oh my gosh, it was really good. And I was like, I'm never going to buy barbecue sauce again. I'm always just going to make my own barbecue sauce because it's deceivingly easy.
Yeah, and if folks have any recipes that they particularly like, feel free to drop them in the comments and share them with everybody.
So Shane, do you remember when we went out turkey hunting that first time? And I love this. Shane and I went turkey hunting together for the first time, or I took him for his first time turkey hunting. And I was so excited because one thing that I love to do in the woods is, especially in springtime, is kind of just notice what's coming up and blooming around, right? And turkey season is around the time that fiddleheads are starting to come up. And I was starting to become more interested in foraging. And I thought, there's a great spot for ramps right near where we're going to come out from turkey hunting. And I told Shane, all proud of myself, oh, hey, we're going to come to a ramp patch. Let's go. Even though we didn't shoot a turkey, we found some mushrooms, which is really cool. And what kind of mushrooms did you find, Shane?
We found
oyster mushrooms
and
pheasant backs. Yep. Which I thought was so cool. And then I thought, I'll show him this ramp patch. And then we got there, and Shane goes to me, those aren't ramps. Like, I'm pretty sure those are daffodils that just haven't bloomed yet. And I was so embarrassed.
But
really
that's the best part about it. Yeah, we all live and we learn. I mean, this is really my second year foraging a lot, and there's so much knowledge out there. And I got to give another shout out to all the online communities. Like Vermont Foragers on Facebook is a online group that has just been awesome. And there's so much information being passed around. You can learn so much from folks all throughout Vermont that are out there looking for food on the ground, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially during now when we feel like we're cooped up. We don't have to be cooped up. We could be out in the woods. A grand slam day in May is starting the morning out with turkey hunting, then going walleye fishing in the afternoon. And then while you're doing it, like foraging for some mushrooms, right? That's a grand slam day right there. You're really taking advantage of all that Vermont's wildness has to offer.
Yeah.
Right? And hopefully making yourself, hopefully bringing home lunch or dinner for yourself. I just want to show you guys how good that barbecue sauce looks already. It's kind of like at a low simmer. And I'm sorry that you can't taste it, but it already tastes like barbecue sauce. It's really, really good. Shane, you've got a question in the comments from Matt Burlew. Where would we find ramps?
Yeah, Matt, that's a great question. So ramps grow generally under deciduous trees, and I have always found patches just going on a hike, and you look, and the cool thing about it is they grow in clumps. So when you see like a really flush ramp spot, they are absolutely everywhere, and it kind of smells like onion. And once you like kind of dig down a little bit in there, you realize that you hit the mother lode, and it's a really fun adventure to be on. So that's a great question. Thank you so much. So Nicole, while you're finishing up that sauce, should I jump in and make our dinner cocktail as well?
Yes. Are you making one for me too? Can you pass it through the screen here? This little
Yeah,
black bar.
yeah, absolutely. So for this dinner cocktail, I had all these just grand visions of using Japanese knotweed as a simple syrup because it's supposed to taste like rhubarb. And if you all know Japanese knotweed, it is incredibly invasive and it's nearly impossible, it seems, to get rid of it. So I had like foraged all these little shoots and I tried to make some simple syrup. And to be honest, it did not taste very good. So I'm glad I gave a little tester. So instead, what we're going to do is make a cocktail featuring one of the great foraged products that Vermont is known for with Vermont maple syrup. So we are going to make a maple vodka sour, right? And so the first thing you want to do is you want to get yourself a shaker or a big plastic glass like this and fill it up with ice to make it nice and cold. And if you have a thing called a jig, it's just a little measuring device that you'll see behind bars. I would definitely recommend using that. Or you can use a shot glass as well. And this is actually a beer tasting glass from the Southern Vermont Summer Homebrew Festival. So this is about 4 ounces. And for this cocktail, what you're going to do is you're going to take some vodka, and I have Absolute here, but there's also a lot of great Vermont distilleries out there that are making wicked awesome spirits that are available just about anywhere in the state. So this cocktail has about 3 ounces or so of vodka. That's a little bit more. And about a half an ounce to an ounce of fresh squeezed lemon juice. So I just generally try to strain it so you don't get the seeds in there. And really, you can make this as sour as you want it, or skimp back on the lemon juice, just depending on what your preference is. But you'll basically get about a half ounce to an ounce out of 1 lemon if you don't squeeze it all over yourself and around your kitchen. So you get that lemon juice in there, get those seeds out, take some bitters, and you're going to give it about 3 dashes. If you don't have bitters, it's not the end of the world. It just gives it a little extra taste to it. And for the maple syrup, you're going to use about an ounce of maple syrup in here. I got this from Shelburne Farms maple syrup, but I know almost everybody and their mother and father know someone who is making maple syrup. So definitely encourage you all to go out and support those sugar makers that are really helping to put Vermont on the map. So about an ounce of maple syrup. So we have the lemon juice, the vodka, the maple syrup, the bitters, and then finally, the recipe calls for adding an egg white. Now, the egg white in and of itself doesn't necessarily impart a lot of flavor, but it does give this cocktail a nice kind of creamy texture, and plus makes a beautiful foamy top, right? So get the egg white in there. You're going to have about an ounce of an egg white per egg, depending on how big it is. And then when you're done with that, you're going to cap off and just shake the living heck out of it until it starts to get super foamy. So,
you know what Bob Ross would say to beat the devil out of it.
Yes, exactly.
Beat the devil out of it.
I know that some bars in Burlington and other places have people dedicated to shaking cocktails. So if anybody is looking for that career path once things open up and you have some strong forearms, that might be a nice gig to go on as well. So we got our cocktail nice and shaken up, and I have a glass of ice here. And what you're going to do is you're going to end up straining the cocktail. Now, as you can see, it's this nice, frothy, creamy looking, delicious cocktail. And with the sour in and of itself, it has this like tart taste to it. And it also has that sweetness of the maple syrup that's sweetness of the maple syrup that's imparted in it. I guess it sounds like a yummy drink for mother-in-laws as well. So Nicole, you might be being solicited to be making this cocktail.
Sounds like, Shane, you have to come over and make my mother-in-law this cocktail when the quarantine is done. And yeah. I mean, I'll have one too, right?
Once social distancing is done, we will absolutely do that. So as always, when I make a cocktail, it generally goes to my partner first, who is off the screen. So she gets to enjoy that delicious cocktail. Now, while that was happening, we also had the fiddleheads come up. So as I said, you just want to make them look like they're nice and golden brown like that. And they end up being nice and soft in the middle with a nice crunchy texture. Tart and sweet, just like me. Thank you, Tim. So with that, we have basically a completed dinner for you all. We have, the foraged fiddleheads and ramps, and those pickled ramps are going to be really delicious. I would recommend putting them like right on top of your barbecue sandwich. And we also have Nicole's delicious recipes. I will share again all the recipes here in a second. And we have the ramps that are pickled. We have Nicole's crock pot turkey, wild turkey with her homemade barbecue sauce. Do you want to give us a look at what that's looking like, Nicole?
Yeah, the barbecue sauce is looking pretty good. I'm still gonna give it some more time to cook down, but once it's cooked down, I'm just going to combine it with the shredded turkey, and then we'll have some yummy barbecue turkey for dinner. My husband is very excited about that. And if you're gonna be storing this stuff, you can store it in a mason jar in your fridge, and I think it stays for about 1 to 2 weeks. It should say on the link where the recipe is. If it lasts that long, if you don't devour it before that, yeah.
So I think that's just about it, right, Nicole? Yeah. I would say, again, nothing really goes better with your wild dinner than some farm fresh sides as well. So definitely go out and pick up some of that delicious food that our farmers are working really hard to grow. And, everything here is certainly, if I may say, rooted in Vermont, because we can all do local food in so many different ways. So it's fun to celebrate. It arguably tastes a lot better, but I'm definitely biased. And again, I do want to say from us, thank you to everybody who's working hard to keep us safe and healthy. Nicole, did you want to add anything?
If you're looking for something to do or a podcast to listen to, Vermont Fish and Wildlife has a brand new podcast. It's up on our website, vtfishandwildlife.com. And if you think that you're interested in turkey hunting, I believe it's the second or it's the third episode, is a fantastic episode from our storytelling event that we did at Zero Gravity in Burlington. It was a storytelling event all based on wild foods. And there's 2 women who told a great, hilarious story about their first time turkey hunting and stopping at some convenience stores and just asking, have you guys seen any turkeys anywhere? It's just a fantastic story. So, I think those stories are really rooted in Vermont too. And that's just as an important component to bring to the dinner table, right?
Definitely. And for anybody who's still tuning in, if you want us to do more of this, by all means, inflate our egos and send us messages through Facebook with suggestions on what we can do next, because it looks like we are going to be social distancing for a little bit longer. So always feel free to drop a comment or send us an email. And we will definitely have Nicole's newest turkey hunter make an appearance the next time as suggested. So
do you want me to bring him down now? See if I can bring him down now.
I don't know. It looks like we got our third guest joining, but again, folks, thank you so much. And definitely drop us a message. And look at that. We have, that's so nice.
This is Jake, like the turkey.
See, he was born for it.
Yeah. Say hi. Hi, Grandma. Grandma's in the chat. Hi.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, folks, we appreciate you tuning in, and definitely look out for more of these coming down the pike, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to do more. Make sure you check out vtfishandwildlife.com and our Vermont Fish and Wildlife's Facebook page. We have links to the video we did similarly to this one with trout with Corey Hart, our Let's Go Fishing coordinator. And hi, Aunt Patty, and hi, Aunt Kathy, and all of our other family members in the chat.
Awesome. Again, thank you, folks, and we're going to sign off. We'll see you next time.
Good luck to all the turkey hunters tomorrow morning.
Yes, all the luck. Bye.